All right. So let's start. So before moving to today's topic, any doubts so far in Docker volumes, Docker cache, registry, how to push our, images to registry, Docker Hub, create them, any doubts so far? Anything?
Not now, bro.
Okay. Yeah. And let's move to our next topic called Docker volumes. Docker volumes. So before going to Docker volumes, maybe let's see a sample example. Why? So let's create a container. Now we have Ubuntu image. Let's run it. Yes, I'm gonna name test. Okay, I'm inside a container obviously, and I'll create some data. So I have some data. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I created a file. You can see this folder, and I'll create some files also. Let's say. Oh, sorry. I have some content inside it. So I created a container. Obviously, it's running as test container, and I created some data inside it. This data I want it for some reason. Let's keep it like that. So usually, where it will be stored is within the container, right? Because whatever the data we created, it's within the container, correct? And now we came out of container. How to check the data? So by default, as I mentioned, so there will be a default directory called varlib docker. You go there, you'll see all the things, containers, images. Forget about other things we haven't gone that. But yeah, images are containers. Go to containers to see something. 9EFB, this is the ID, right? See, go inside. See, this is usually will be information about the container. I mean, so control mouse, sorry, nothing is there. Okay, these are all the configuration of the containers. So for every container, if you create one more container, there will be one more directory for that with the ID of the container. Where is the ID? Yeah, this one with the ID of the container. Correct. So every data will be stored when whatever data we create inside a container will be stored within the container itself. Let's say how do my containers are running in my machine? Is there any place where it will store in the machine? Yes, there is a place. In the Varlib Docker itself, there is volumes. Let's go there. There are so many things. Let's. There is nothing. It's not storing anything. So usually what happens is if you create a container, let's say anything, it can be anything. It will store the. I mean, create a container and you add some data to it inside the container. What happens now is if you delete a container, let's say my container is there here. inside this container I have some data, right? I created my file something. If I delete it, container is deleted. Sorry, container is deleted along with the data. There is no data now because container is gone. Where is our data? Inside the container. It's gone. So that's the problem now because we cannot guarantee them. We cannot guarantee that hey it will be running forever. We can't guarantee that. It may go down any time, depends on the resources what we have. Depends on you know the issue it can be, whatever the issue it face, it will go down. At that time, if it goes down, our data also will be deleted. If we delete a container, the data is deleted. Let's say accidentally I deleted some container instead of the other one. Gone. Once you delete it, there is no getting it back. Remember that. There is no getting it back. So main point here is the data does not persistent here. It means the data is not standard, right? I mean, standard means it's not standardly available because here it depends on the container. Whatever the data inside it, it, it will go along with the container if we delete it. So there is no persistent for the data, whatever the data we create. So that's why we have this concept called Docker volumes. This Docker volumes, what happens is this will manage the data outside the container. What do you mean outside the container? It does not depend the data with container lifecycle. So let's say what I told, the data, sorry, what is this? If the container is deleted, the data will be deleted, right? Because here container, the data is inside a container. So it depends on the life cycle of container, obviously. But Docker volumes, it does not depends on the container life cycle. We create a volume. Imagine like a hard disk. Let's imagine like a hard disk. Let's say an external hard disk. You bought it, not which came with the system. An external hard disk, you bought something, 1 TB something. You attach it to your machine and you're using it. Correct. Now your laptop crashed. Your laptop crashed now. So will the external hard disk affect? I mean, will that also will be gone? No, right? Of course, the internal default one which came along with the system, usually the 500 GB something, that will be gone, obviously. But the external hard disk which we use, insert with a wire or something, that does not affect, right? You have data safe in that external hard disk. Volumes are just like that. Volumes, it used to manage your data outside the container lifecycle. Simple. Let's say you have data, but you want to make it secure. I mean, I don't want the data to be deleted along with the container. Just create a volume and use it. Use it with your container. It will store the data, and even the container is deleted. The volume won't delete until we delete it manually, obviously. It's using a volume with a container, and the container is deleted for some reason. But the volume don't delete because the volume does not depend on the container. It's separate. That's how usually volume works. So it does not depend on the container lifecycle. It will Due to that, the data will be preserved. Whatever the data inside the volume will be stored without being deleted. depends on the container. Of course, we can delete it manually, but it does not delete along with the main container. So here, how to use it, how to use Docker volume, how to create them, how to use them. So that's we'll see now. So first, let's see how many types of volumes are there. Majorly, there are two types. Let's go to Notepad. One is volumes, another is bind mounts. Volumes are like these are managed by Docker, managed by Docker. Sorry. So this will be stored as a part of host itself. I mean the machine itself where you are running the Docker. It will be stored within our server only, but managed by Docker. Another thing is let's write that also. Host file system. Obviously, you know what is file system. Bind mounts are like these are like mounting our any server path, any machine path, whatever we have. Mounting any path. Let's say I want to mount OPT into my container. You can mount it. I want to mount root. You can do that. I want to mount something, some other path. You can do that. So mounts host path, any path. It doesn't matter. These two are the main things. So let's first see about the volumes. As let's come here, go to where libdocker. You are okay. You got stuck, but yeah, that's okay. So as I showed you, right, Docker volumes or whatever the Docker data will be stored in where libdocker. So each and every have its own directory and it will be storing in that. Similar way, volumes also have a separate directory if you observe. Any volumes. As of now, there is no volumes, nothing, no data is there. So we can create our own volume and we can use along with the container. So when you create a volume, it will come here. It will come here means the data will be stored here, whatever the data is storing in a volume. Let's see that. How to create a volume. Suppose docker command start with docker volume. After that, you can write any commands. The first command I'll say docker volume ls to print if any volumes are there. Nothing obviously. And to create docker volume, create sorry any volume test volume. I created a volume. Now type docker volume ls. The volume name is there, correct? Now type ls here in the varlib docker volumes path. See test volume. Go to test volume. Of course, there is nothing. It will be empty. So with if I store any data in this volume, it will come to test volumes. I mean the volumes path, test volume and data. It will be stored here. So how volumes work is that we have to see. So sorry, you know how to create a volume? Docker volume, create, that's it. No, the name, whatever the name. Docker volume ls to see the volumes. And where it will store the data, where lib docker. In the volumes directory, when you create a volume, the directory will be created with the name of the volume. And there will be folder called underscore data inside it, which will store all your data in it. So now, how to use this? I have a volume, how to use this. How to use this is, while creating a container, you can use this volume. You have to remember that while creating only, okay, let's say a container, sorry, did I remove that? Yeah, maybe. So a container was running, right? Test. I I cannot use for the running container. I mean, it's simple, no, to keep it simple, volumes cannot be used for existing containers. So it can be used only for a new containers only. For new containers only. Got it? So volumes can be used while creating the container. But let's see how to do that. Docker images. Let's create a container now with Ubuntu image as an example. Docker run -it. You have to pass it, I mean, in order to mount a volume -v. That is the argument that you have to pass. -v means volume, obviously. And what is your volume name? I think test volume colon, sorry, test volume colon, where you want to mount this volume. See how to use a volume is, let's say even if you attach a pen drive or something, it will be like go to local disk C, local disk E, some path, right? Even if we use the same in Linux /dev /xpda something, some path. We have to mount that, right? Remember, if you want to create a new disk or if you were using NFS at that time, we have created a sample directory, I mean a new directory and mounted to that. Here also volume has to be mounted. Any path it can be. Of course, I mean don't use /root, something like that. Those are default, don't use those, but remaining any other path you can create your own. Let's say I want to maybe mount to /opt/test as an example. This opt test, whether it exists or does not exist, does not really matter actually. Let's say opt test exists in the Ubuntu image. I mean this folder, this directory exists in the Ubuntu image. It will mount it, this volume to this path. If does not exist, it will create it, obviously. Obviously, opt test won't be there by default. Opt will be there, not test inside it, obviously. So it will create that folder directory and mount to it. Got it? So let's see how to verify. 122.104, yes. Yeah, inside a container df -h. If you observe, it was what is there. I mean, opt test is showing. Okay, mount point is correct. Then what is this? What is this? Is see where you created a volume in your host, obviously in your machine wherever Docker is running, and where the data will be stored in the host itself, where libdocker volumes path. It means it's using your hard disk. I mean the internal drive, internal volume of the internal hard disk, let's say. So it will mount the, you simply mounting the file system of your machine wherever the Docker volume is created. See, this is the disk outside also which we have. Let's see. Control J. This is the default disk where libdocker is present, correct? This is slash obviously. So where lib docker volumes it's present inside this. So it is using the whole file system. I mean, of course, you don't use completely unless we store the data, but it will use that. That's it. Now, if inside a container, if I create any data inside OPT test directory because it's mounted, the data will be reflected in where lib docker volumes here. Sorry. So test volume underscore. Sorry. If I create any directory inside a volume, it will present here, and vice versa. If I create any direct data in here in the host in this volume path, it will reflect there. Let's try both. I'm in host now. Observe my nomination. I'll create something. Okay, I created something right outside the container. It's not inside container. Observe that. Now I'll go inside a container. So volume is OPT test. See the data is here. Now create few more inside a container. Something. It doesn't matter what data it is. Now it will be reflected where? In my host. So what that will mean is, I mean exactly, the data will be in sync. So now I'll go out of the container. See, whatever data I created inside the container is reflecting here. What in the host, whatever data, same way, reverse. If I create in a host, it's reflecting in container because the data will be in sync and we are using the same thing here. So we created a volume. We are using in containers in some path, whatever the path is. But where the volume data, original data is being stored inside your host only, inside your machine where lib docker, the volume name underscore data. So even if you create some data inside the container, it will come to where lib docker volumes only because that's the source. That's where it will store everything. So it will be in sync. Not just one container. The volume can be mounted to n number of containers. There is no limitation. I'll create another container. Now current hyphen it hyphen name some test container. Ubuntu, sorry, hyphen name hyphen v. What is that text value? This is second container. Here I want to mount to maybe slash home slash test. See, in the first container we mounted to slash opt slash test. Now in this is second container. I want to use the same volume. Where is this test volume? To slash home test slash test. Different path. It's fine. I'm using the same container. Sorry, same volume in multiple containers. It can be multiple paths within the container. There is no limit. I mean, there is no nothing like that. If I use OPT test, if I mount it to OPT test, in the next container also I have to mount OPT test because, as I told you, containers are unique. Sorry, isolated. In this container, this volume is using in OPT path. In a new container, it's using in home test path. That's it. There is no standard position. Now what happens if I create? Of course, like this, you can see the mounted path, the disk, the whole disk. And of course, the data is here it already in the volume. Remember, the data will be displayed. I mean, will be in sync to the disk container also. Try that. Home test observer. Here it is there, right? Now go to home test. See, the data is already came because in the volume the data exists. We just reusing the volume. Got it? That's about the volume. No, we delete the container, both. No, just delete docker rm version test. This one. The containers are deleted, but the data still exists in the host. That is the advantage. To store the data without depending on the container lifecycle, without bothering about the container lifecycle, use the volume. How to use the volume? Create a volume, use it. And remember, only you have to, you can attach volume. We usually call it attach a volume or mount a volume, both are same. You can mount a volume while creating the container, not after creating it. Let's say now, sorry, sorry. So now container is running, right? It's already running. While creating the container, I forgot to mount a volume, -v something, I forgot that. Now how, what to do? There's nothing you can do about it. For a running container, you can't mount a volume. It's not possible. There is no option like that. So you have to recreate it. That's it. Recreate and pass the mount option. That's it. That's the only thing.
Bro, how about stop and start? We can stop the container and we
But
can
no,
restart
you
it,
can't
right?
do that. You can try, but it won't work because the container exists already. The process is running. You can't now mount it. So that's why make sure you have a dependency volume. If you need the volume while creating it, do that. Got it? So stop in the container and mount it. Stop in the container. No, it does not because the container exists already. Whether it be running or stop, it does not matter. It exists already. So for an existing container, no, we cannot do that. Is it clear?
Yes.
Now let's go here. Yeah, test volume we have. You don't need to create Docker volume, create whatever the thing, the container, sorry, the volume name and all. It will automatically create it for you. How? Just while creating a container, let's say -v new volume. I want to mount to slash where slash new path something. See, this new volume does not exist, isn't it? See? Only test volume is there, not new. Now what to do? What it will do? It will create it automatically for you. Sorry, my bad. Oh, sorry. Test. It will create for you. OPT new path, obviously correct. Now come outside the container. Ls see new volume. You don't need to do manually like Docker volume create volume name something. Just while creating a container, just use the volume any name. If it is present, it will use it. If it is not present, it will create it for you. Do remember that. And make sure, you give a correct name while using, if you want to use existing volume to a container, just give a correct name. If you want to create a new volume while creating a container, just simply give the name you create. That's all. Got it? That's all. It will work. These volumes are managed by Docker. I told you right here. This is managed by Docker because we didn't create it, right? We just gave the command, it take care of it. Docker created it. It will be stored in file system, obviously. So is it clear?
Yes.
So any doubts so far? If no doubts, we'll go to another type of volume. Bind mounts. This is used to mount host path into your container. Any path, it does not matter what path it is. Let's say you want to mount /root into a container because this data you want. Of course, one way is you can simply copy this data, but not like that, right? Maybe after half an hour, you might have update data. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell one important point. So now I'm using a volume, right, in the container, and it will mount. We are mounting the volume. The data will be reflecting in sync, obviously. If you update in a container, it will be in sync in local host. If you update the data in host, it will be in sync, obviously, in container. Even after like maybe after hour or something, you updated some line in the data in the file. It will reflect that also. I mean, the sync will be the sync is there. I just want to say that. So now I want to use bind mounts is like mounting our server path on our machine path. These are not managed by Docker obviously. These are our Linux file systems which we want to mount inside a container to in order to access it. So I want to mount slash root. Let's see how it works or not. Slash root means this all data will be, I mean, this slash root path will be mounted to some path inside a container, and this data will be in sync. I mean, this path will be in sync, whatever data we create here. I mean, there is no difference actually here for volumes and bind mounts. The usage is also same. Just hyphen v only will pass, but the difference is who manages them. That's it. Volumes is we create volumes managed by Docker. That's it. Bind mounts, we just use the Linux server path, Linux machine path. That's it. Docker does not know about that. How Docker know about slash root? No, right? It's Linux path. Docker knows only direct Docker. That's it. That's the only difference. Remaining nothing will change. Everything will be same. Simply just run command. Docker run -it -v slash root sorry, slash maybe test root something. Again, I'm telling you, if you're using some path, no need to use the same thing here. You can use any path. You can mount to any path. It does not really matter. Test maybe just something remote, something as an example. Like you may think like, okay, I'm mounting root. So root slash root should be mounted to slash root only within the container. No, this is the container path on right side. It can be mounted to anything. Of course, don't mount to slash root because the data will be exist right over there, so it will be gone. So you can mount to any path. Information name test 22.04. Yes, test folder exists. Test remote C df -h C. Go to slash test remote. Sorry. See the root data exists. See, I'll create one file here. Something. Now go come back to root. See the file exists. The second one, the from container. Yes, perfect. See, that's what about bind mounts. Nothing is changed, right? Except you're just using the machine path, the Linux machine's path. That's it. Depending on our bind mounts is further to use your Linux. I mean, whatever the machine you are using, Windows or Linux, to use the a file to mount a file or a directory from the server itself, from the machine itself, from the host machine. Directly you simply mount it. Any path, it's not just slash root, anything you can mount it. But don't mount slash boot. Those have boot files. I mean, you can mount that. If you delete accidentally, gone. So don't touch that. Don't touch that slash boot. But from that, you can do anything. You can mount anything. Got it? There is one more flag you can write, like, simply what you can do is, I'll create a new container, test one. Now, what happens here? Usually, I mean, we create the data inside a container. It will be obviously in sync with the local path or the local Docker volume, let's say. It's fine. Now I have scenario that I'll update the data outside the container. It should be just reflected. From inside the container, I should not create anything. So that time what you do, you just keep read only RO. Let's try now. CD test one. Okay, let's touch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Read only file system. Because I'm mounting a path, but I'm giving only read only access to the container. So container can just read the data, whatever inside the volume, but not write anything. So now if I write something here, the data will be reflected. So the data will be reflected, but within the container, from within the container, we cannot create the data. Got it? Because we gave only read only permission to container. RO, read only. Where is this RO? This should be, yeah, read only. We just, because maybe it's a security measure, I would say. Because slash root is there. Slash root has so much data. As an example, I don't want container to delete them. Maybe my mistake also. Or I don't want to container to update the data also. I just want the container to read it. That's all it requires. That's all it requires. In my case, container has just to read the data in order to work. That's it. So that time what I do, I'll give RO, read only permission. That's it. Because you don't need, right? If you don't need the right access, why you do give right permissions? Just keep RO. That's it. That's all you can do. Mm, so is it clear?
Yeah.
Good. There is one more container type called TMPFS, temporary file system. These actually stored in the system memory, not in the disk, system memory only. And the data will be never stored in hard disk, I mean the file system. It can be used like, if you want to store some temporary data, if you want to store some, data you want to keep only at the time of running a container. At the time you can use it. But how to use it? You can't use it. By default, container has it. That's how it works, right? TMPFS data depends on the container life cycle. I mean container life. If we delete it, TMPFS also will be gone. That's the default one, right? We use in containers. We just create a container, write some data, delete a container, data is gone. That's how easily it works, right? So you cannot create this TMPFS. Got it. So yeah, that's about volumes. Any doubts so far?
This TMPFS will be created at the time of running
Yes,
container, right?
exactly. It will automatically create, it will automatically delete. You don't need to do anything for it. Yeah. Any doubts in today's topic? I mean, volume. That's it. I mean, volumes topic is done. No doubts. If nothing, yeah, we can close the call then.
Not no.
Yeah, practice it. Do practice and yeah. Okay, then let's meet tomorrow then. All right. Bye. Bye. All.